Jinger Duggar's husband Jeremy Vuolo is speaking out about a time that something went down and he could have gotten 20 years in prison. They talked about this on their recent podcast called the Jinger and Jeremy podcast. So what happened to Jeremy that almost could have sent him to prison? Jeremy Vuolo reveals scary moment that went down. Jeremy got some money for a car deal that he handled for a friend. It was $6,000 and it was in cash, so he had to take it to the bank to put it in his account. Well, it turns out that this money wasn't even real and was actually counterfeit. The bank could have easily thought that he was trying to pull one over on him. They let him feel the money and Jeremy said that it was simply paper. Jeremy explained how he got the money, saying, the Vuolo's friend had a car on our property that they were selling and a guy shows up at the house who was wild. And the guy selling it was like, this guy's crazy, but he's here to buy the car. So they made the exchange. Jeremy and Jinger Vuolo. Jeremy could have ended up behind bars. Jeremy Vuolo says that it really scared him and all he could think about was that he could have ended up with 20 years in prison for counterfeit money. Instead, they let him off after an explanation and then they made him stay while they did a report. Jeremy said, "I'm just thankful you're not in jail right now." The fact that the bills were very clearly fake is probably part of what helped Jeremy out in this situation. The thing is, Jeremy didn't notice they were fake when he took them from the guy or took them into the bank. No word on if they ever got the actual money from the guy or what happened to him when the law got involved in the case. Jinger Duggar and Jeremy Vuolo from Counting On TLC sourced from Jeremy is very lucky that nothing happened to him. He has been arrested before for harassing people when he was drunk. This was before he was with Jinger and Jeremy has turned his life around now. Are you shocked that Jeremy Vuolo had so much counterfeit money? Do you think that he is lucky he didn't land himself in prison? Sound off in the comments section below on your thoughts. In the carefully curated world of reality television, where life's messy edges are often smoothed over, former Counting On star Jinger Vuolo, née Duggar, and her husband, Jeremy Vuolo, are attempting to carve out a new space for authenticity. On their recently launched podcast, the Jinger and Jeremy podcast, the couple is delving into topics that stray far from their TLC roots, but a recent episode contained a story so startling it left listeners gasping. Jeremy Vuolo, the former professional soccer player turned pastor, disclosed a harrowing chapter from his past where a simple act of friendship nearly cost him his freedom, landing him in a legal nightmare with the potential for a 20-year prison sentence. The incident, which Vuolo recounted with a palpable sense of lingering unease, serves as a stark reminder of how quickly an ordinary day can spiral into a life-altering crisis. It underscores the severe, unforgiving nature of federal law and paints a picture of a man who, by his own account, was naively unaware of the danger he was walking into until it was almost too late. The perfect storm, a car, a wild stranger, and a stack of fake bills. The chain of events began innocuously enough. As Vuolo explained to his wife and their audience, a friend had a car for sale that was parked on the Vuolo's property. The friend had found a buyer, but the prospective purchaser immediately raised red flags. "They had a car on our property that they were selling," Jeremy recalled, setting the scene. "And a guy shows up at the house who was wild." The friend, seemingly caught between a desire to complete the sale and a sense of apprehension, conveyed to Jeremy that the buyer was crazy, but he's here to buy the car. Despite the misgivings, the transaction proceeded. The wild man handed over $6,000 in cash, took possession of the vehicle, and departed. The friend, perhaps uncomfortable with holding such a large sum of cash, then entrusted the money to Jeremy. His task seemed simple: take the $6,000 to the bank and deposit it into his own account, presumably to later transfer it to the friend or handle it digitally. It was an errand, a favor, nothing more. Jeremy, seeing no reason for suspicion, bundled the cash and headed to his local bank, completely unaware that the stack of bills in his hand was nothing but sophisticated forgery. The moment of truth, it was simply paper. The facade of a normal day shattered the moment he handed the money to the bank teller. The teller, trained to spot inconsistencies, immediately identified the currency as counterfeit. In an instant, Jeremy Vuolo transformed from a valued customer into a potential criminal suspect. The situation escalated quickly. Bank staff and security became involved, and the gravity of the moment crashed down upon him. The bank could have easily thought that I was trying to pull one over on them, Jeremy admitted, acknowledging how the scenario appeared from the institution's perspective. Here was a man attempting to deposit a large amount of blatantly fake money. The most logical conclusion for the bank was that he was the perpetrator of a fraud scheme. To emphasize just how obvious the forgery was, the bank employees even let Jeremy feel the bills for himself. His description was damning. It was simply paper. This detail became a crucial piece of the puzzle. The fact that the counterfeiting was so amateurish likely worked in his favor, suggesting he was a dupe rather than a mastermind. A more convincing fake might have implied greater knowledge and involvement. Confronting a 20-year specter and a harrowing what-if? As he sat in the bank, surrounded by officials and filling out reports, the potential consequences began to dawn on him. Federal counterfeiting laws in the United States are notoriously strict. Possessing, passing, or attempting to pass counterfeit currency is a federal felony that can carry a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison and fines of up to $250,000. For Jeremy, the abstract notion of prison became a terrifyingly concrete possibility. "It really scared me," he confessed on the podcast, the fear still evident in his retelling. "All I could think about was that I could have ended up with 20 years in prison for counterfeit money." The weight of that statement hung in the air. 2 decades, a significant portion of a human life, enough to see a child grow to adulthood, enough to miss countless milestones, all lost for a simple errand gone wrong. Jinger's response during the podcast was one of stunned relief, a testament to the lasting impact of the scare. "I'm just thankful you're not in jail right now," she told him, a sentiment that undoubtedly echoed in the minds of every listener. It was a sobering what-if moment that highlighted the precariousness of their current life of freedom and family. A twist of fate and a lingering mystery, fortunately for Vuolo. After hearing his explanation and likely verifying his identity and history, the authorities involved, whether bank security or responding law enforcement, determined he was an unwitting pawn in the scheme. He was not arrested. Instead, he was required to stay while a detailed report was filed, a nerve-wracking but ultimately freeing resolution. He walked out of the bank that day with his future intact, but with a chilling new understanding of how easily it could have been stolen. The story, however, leaves several unanswered questions that add to its intrigue. What happened to the mysterious, wild buyer? Was he ever apprehended? Did the Vuolo's friend ever recover the actual car or receive legitimate payment? And most pertinently, what was the final determination from the Secret Service, the federal agency tasked with investigating counterfeit currency cases? Jeremy's account on the podcast did not provide these closure details, leaving the epilogue of this frightening tale unwritten. A pattern of dodging consequences? Context from a checkered past for some followers of the Vuolo family. This story may feel eerily familiar. Long before he was a pastor and a reality TV husband, Jeremy Vuolo had a different public persona, that of a troubled college athlete. In 2007, while playing soccer for Hartwick College, he was arrested for harassment and disorderly conduct following a drunken altercation. The incident, which he has since openly discussed as a low point that catalyzed his religious conversion, resulted in him being dismissed from the team.